When things go wrong as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when the funds are low and the debts are high, and you want to smile but you have to sigh, when care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must but do not ever quit. Success is a failure turned inside out. Let's talk and clear the clouds of doubt.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk. I'm your host, Omar Dunlap. We have with us, as always, Brother Idris. Salamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
And we have our wonderful studio audience. Salamu alaikum. What we're discussing today is learning about Islam. The effect of Muslim schools, methods of learning about Islam, where did you learn about Islam, this sort of topic, and I think it's something that will be very enlightening, inshallah ta'ala. But before I get too much into that, we're going to let Brother Idris, inshallah, share his thoughts on that topic.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalam ala ashraf al-mursaleen Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most compassionate, all praise be to Allah, the Lord of the worlds. Peace and blessings of Allah be upon His final messenger Muhammad, and may the peace and the blessings and the mercy of Allah be upon all of you who are watching this program today. In fact, you honor us by joining us today. And today, yes, we're talking about learning about Islam. We're going to be asking, what's the role of Muslim schools? Where do people learn about Islam? Is it in the family? Which is the most important place? Is it university? So they're the kind of questions, and is each one playing his part right? But for a reflection to start with, I was thinking about, what kind of Islam are we learning? That's what my reflection is about. Because, I think we make Islam very complicated. Islam is so simple, and yet as men and women we make it seem so complicated, both to each other and to non-Muslims, when really Islam is just telling the world that there is a God, one God without partner or equal, and God speaks to His creation through messengers and tells us how to find happiness in this life and the next by doing His will. That's Islam. It's very, very simple. And so, I travel all over the world talking about Islam, and I write things, and some people say to me at times, they say, Brother Idris, how do you manage with this hectic schedule of recording programs on TV and radio and writing for this newspaper and that? How do you stay grounded in Islam without getting carried away? And it's very simple, but I'll tell you how in a minute. First of all, I want to take you to Cairo. And in Cairo, there's a great castle, a citadel, built by Salah ad-Din. And it's a very popular tourist site. And inside the citadel, there are three mosques. The most important mosque of all is called Muhammad Ali Basha. It was built by they call him the founder of modern Egypt, Muhammad Ali, who came as a mercenary and rose through the ranks of the Ottoman army to become the ruler of Egypt. And he was the founder of Egypt's royal family that ruled until 1952. And in his honor, I don't know if it's in Allah's honor or it's in his honor, but it's called Muhammad Ali Mosque. There's an enormous mosque. It's one of the landmarks of Cairo. It has a shiny tin roof, and it's built in the Ottoman style. It has Ottoman-style minarets, because Muhammad Ali wanted to copy the manners and the style of Istanbul, because he was part of the Ottoman Empire. So this mosque of Muhammad Ali Basha, it's enormous. Many don't like it, many do like it, but it's very big and grand. You go inside and it's very splendid. Also near it, there's another mosque. There's a mosque of Sultan al-Nasir Muhammad, who was a Mamluk Sultan. It's a much older mosque. To my own personal taste, it's much more beautiful. And all of the tourists who come in to visit the citadel, they pass the mosque of al-Nasir Muhammad first. Often they don't go in, because the much grander and more famous mosque of Muhammad Ali is on the left, so they go to that one. But also inside the citadel there's another mosque, and most tourists never get to see it. And this mosque is called the Mosque of Suleiman Basha. And this was the very first Ottoman mosque built in Egypt. It was built about 1520, very soon after the Ottomans came to Egypt. And it's truly delightful. It really is a hidden gem. Tourists never get to see it. It's out of the way. And it's purely in the Ottoman style. It has a beautiful dome and a very beautiful pencil-shaped minaret. And you go inside, and it's been lovingly restored by a student artist, so that all of the tile work is gleaming. And it really is very, very beautiful and very prayerful. And you go into this mosque, and there are none of the tourists of the other two. There's hardly anyone ever there. And they have very quietly playing in the background the Quran. And it's a very quiet, gentle, prayerful place. So we leave that to one side as well. How to stay grounded in Islam. Well, I made a program with Huda TV a few years back. And I travelled, I was living in Alexandria on the north coast at the time, so I travelled by car. It took me about 3 hours to get here to the studio. And when I arrived, the program was supposed to go out live, but things weren't ready. So for 4 hours we sat around, and there were technicians and directors and lighting people and electricians and producers, all kinds of important people milling around. And eventually the program showed. And the interviewer asked me that very question. He said, "Brother Idris, how do you stay grounded in the real Islam?" And I said to him, Muhammad, his name, I said, "It's very simple. You know, we were waiting for this program to show. And all of these important people were milling around us, producers and directors and technicians, and all of these fancy titled people." He said, "Yes." I said, "Well, also, Muhammad, there was someone else. There was a little boy called Ahmed. And Ahmed went down on his hands and knees with a damp cloth, and he cleaned the floor where we're sitting." And I talked to Ahmed, and he was delighted. He was telling me he was delighted to have a job here, because he was getting good money to take home to he was about 14, to take home to his mum and dad and his brothers and sisters. And so we talked for a while, and I said to the one interviewing me at the time, I said, "Brother, as long as we never forget Ahmed, we stay grounded, the whole thing seems real." And you know, those mosques in the citadel, the big mosque, the big one, gets all the attention. The one on the right as you go in, people visit that as well. The hidden one that no one sees is barely visited, but it's that one that touches our hearts. It's the simple, not the big fancy shouting and glamour and glory, but the simple. So as long as we keep, inshaAllah, as long as we keep our foreheads on the ground and remember that it is Allah that we serve, inshaAllah, we will never forget the real Islam.
MashaAllah. As always, a wonderful reflection, Brother Idris, and we thank you for that. We're going to go to a very quick break. We'll be right back. Don't go away, because the show's just beginning. We'll see you in a second. Assalamu alaikum.
Earth, the human heart, greed, exploitation, hatred, all diseases of the heart. For the cure, join Huda TV every Sunday at 20 GMT for Moments for the Heart.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to our show, Let's Talk. I'm your host, moderator, Omar Dunlap. We have with us, as always, Brother Idris Tawfiq. Assalamu alaikum. We're discussing today learning about Islam. And we're going to take a look right now at some questions that we've asked some people. We just brought them in off the street, and we asked them, where did you learn about Islam? And we're going to take a look at their answers, inshaAllah.
My first contact, of course, with Islam was with my mother and my father, who taught me the basics. Then I continued the learning about Islam in our mosque with our imam, which of course widened the knowledge about Islam. And then after I finished college, with studying college in Slovenia, I decided that it was better for me to leave the studying which I studied in Slovenia and come here and learn more about Islam, so I'll be better and more educated about the knowledge and things about Islam.
Yes, I think, but we should to try to get ready our self by knowledge and education system, good education system to we will be a good ambassador for Islam. But we should also try to get ready ourselves and other relation with other person and relation. We also respect the society of other country and other rules in the country. Inshallah, we will be a good ambassador for Islam. May Allah help us for this good ambassador, inshallah.
MashaAllah, that was very interesting. Brother Idris, what did you think about what we just heard?
Bismillah. Well, they mentioned home and family and the important things about Islam. You know, before we ask the audience, I think I wanted to tell you a story.
Yeah.
I taught for about a year and a half. I taught an MA in Islamic Studies at Mahad al-Fatah al-Islami in Damascus. And the department I was in charge of was called Calling to Islam in English. And my students were from all over the Muslim world, from India and Pakistan and the Arab world, and some from the United States, Brazil. And the first time I would meet my group, I'd say to them, I have certain rules that you must follow. One rule is, if you come to my class with dirty shoes, I won't let you in. And they said, what do you mean, Ustaz? I said, if you want to call people to Islam and talk about Islam to those who are not Muslim, you must present yourself well. So no dirty shoes. Mm. And they said, what's the second rule? I said, the second rule is, if you don't smile, I will fail you. And they all laughed. And I said, because you can't talk about Islam to people who are not Muslim if you're not cheerful with a smile on your face. So in our educational systems, you know, we have to have a little sense of humor, because we'll be asking this question later on, but there's a lot said about Islam to young people. There's a saying, when all is said and done, there's a lot more said than done. You know? So we're going to ask about schools and universities and institutions and so on, teaching about Islam, and what are the fruits of it.
This reminds me of one of your favorite sayings. I hear you say it all the time. You attract more bees with honey than a barrel full of vinegar.
That's true.
Right? And
Absolutely.
This is not just in what we say about Islam, but how we are as people, how we are as ambassadors. We want to be very sweet, very sweet people. We want to draw the people near to us.
In Egyptian we say asal, honey. We should be like honey.
MashaAllah. Well, let's see if we have any questions from our audience about this topic. Go ahead, brother.
Now, Mr. Idris, how can you say the mission of Islamic schools and Islamic societies in the West, in the very windy atmosphere which amid claims and arguments that Islamic schools are nurturing and lactating students, terrorism, and above all, radicalism?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I don't want us to concentrate on the West. The West is not what we're talking about today, but we can just touch on that question. Muslim schools, madrasas they call them, when the news wants to create a problem headline, it mentions madrasas, and immediately people sit up and are very frightened. Madrasas are people where ordinary kids learn about the Quran and about Islam. That's all it means. It's not a place where they've got hand grenades in the cupboard instead of books. So, well, again, you know, people only know what they see. They learn by what they see. So if they see us as good, honest, kind, hard-working Muslims, like the Muslims that went to Southeast Asia and turned the whole thing upside down, the merchants, by their good example, drew people to Islam. If that's what they see, people will see one version of Islam. If they see us very miserable, let me give you another story, okay? Same place in Damascus. First day I was there, I was standing in the entrance to the institute, and the door comes straight in from the street, and in from the door came some students they were Turkish students from Germany, and they were dressed like something from the Ottoman Empire of the 18th century, and they came in, and they looked very serious, and I said to them, "Assalamu alaikum," and they said, "Wa alaikum salam." And they moved on, because they thought, who's he? You know, because somehow we feel, when we enter an Islamic institution, we must be very serious. They'd been laughing out in the street, but all of a sudden, the next day, they came in, and I said, "Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah." Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. After 2 weeks, we were hugging each other when they came in the door, you know? And all of that phony seriousness and gravity that they thought they were supposed to have, that they'd got from somewhere. Who taught them that, I don't know. It had relaxed, and we were greeting one another as brothers. So, you know, we can give images of Islam just by the way we walk and look and talk, or by the way we smile and laugh and joke and relate and are kind to people. So that's how we can diffuse it. But enough of the West.
Well, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ actually said in a hadith, there is time in our religion for merriment, you know. And I think that's something that we've forgotten, that, you know, and he actually said this in a context of da'wah, because someone had told some people playing music at a wedding, something to that effect, to go away, and he said, no, there's time in our religion for merriment, for joy. And he said that's in order to show the people. And you can look this up, this is verified. Right, so you want to show people the beautiful face of Islam, the beautiful character of the Prophet ﷺ. You know, it's really amazing. There was a food fight in his house between his wives, and they said at the end of it, he was laughing so loud that you could see the back of his teeth. It became visible because the women were throwing food at each other, and he started laughing. You know, this is our deen, and this is our Prophet.
And this is what people on the TV don't see.
Exactly.
Or don't hear about, or they only hear about madrasas. So we need to change this by our attitude.
Do we have another question from Ari?
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to thank you so much for this wonderful episode about Islamic teachings in terms of education. And I'd like to ask you about the most important requirements that we must have to have a perfect education. The second question is it recommended for us to apply the term of Islamization of knowledge? I once read such term in the literature of Dr. Ismail Rajil Farouqi. He was a professor at Chicago University, and he applied that term in his literature and works, especially Atlas of Islamic Civilization. So what's the definition of Islamization of knowledge? And I want to know whether it's recommended or not in a way that suits our society. Thank you so much.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. It's not a term I've heard before, Islamization of knowledge. But my understanding of it is very simple. Islam is not a once-a-week religion. In fact, we don't really call Islam a religion at all. We call it a complete way of life. Islam touches everything. So every aspect of knowledge, Islam touches that. And Islam informs everything we do. When we get up in the morning, we know what dua to make. When we enter a room, we enter Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. When we say, is this bus going into central Damascus, the reply will be Insha'Allah. So all things we talk about and speak about and learn about, Islam informs them. Now let me give you an example of something in particular. On my website, there's an article at the moment that I wrote, and I wrote it as a result of the Copenhagen Climate Summit. Okay, the whole world talking about climate summit, and I've called the article "Caring for the Earth, It Belongs to Allah." You know, all things, we can bring Islam into all things. Not in a heavy-handed way that will upset people, but in a very gentle way. We can tell them that Islam is relevant to all people everywhere, and that Islam is involved in all aspects of knowledge.
I think Dr. Ismail Rajil Farouqi, from his works, he was talking and tackling the issue of Islamization of the modern sciences and how to direct them in order to serve Islam and the high ethics put by Islam. So what's your opinion about this?
You mean as Muslims?
Yes.
Can we?
Yes, in a way that does not contradict Islam at all.
we're talking here about something that's outside my scope of knowledge.
Okay.
But Islam serves all things that serve Allah. And Islam is happy talking to any group or any ology at all. Islam is not threatened by science or communism or atheism. Islam is threatened by nothing. Islam is perfect. And Islam is lacking nothing. Muslims are not. Muslims are not perfect. We are lacking in many things. But Islam is absolutely perfect. So we're not afraid. And we can stand up with the best of people and argue with them with wise words and beautiful preaching about our religion and tell them and persuade them in the right way. So if that helps, that would be my
I would like to
response.
add something, that Islam begat knowledge. Knowledge came from Islam. So I don't think it's proper, from my understanding, to turn it around and say, now we have to take knowledge and make it fit to Islam. All knowledge came from Islam. Knowledge came from Quran. Because the Quran was like a spark that fell in a powder keg, really. And all of these sciences just exploded from that, and the Muslim world just expanded and was the example of knowledge. And from that came the Renaissance. And from the Renaissance came modern society. So I don't think it's appropriate to say Islamization of knowledge. We'll just say returning Islam to its roots, which is the example of knowledge and science and this sort of higher etiquette. We have one question?
Yeah. Could you tell us, Mr. Idris, about what are the schools or institutes that the people in the West can learn Islam in?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. There are so many. How long is the show? How long is the show? I mean, one I see coming from the UK, you probably see it coming from America, an attitude where sometimes, Muslims think that it's total darkness beyond their shores, as if there is no light at all. I was in one country, an Arab Muslim majority country, and the brothers were talking to me about taking light to the people in darkness, taking Islam to these people who were living in darkness. And I said to them, brother, are you living in light where you are? They were living in tyranny. So we should be careful, the words we're using. The West, many of the institutions in the West are absolutely fantastic, spot on. From Kuala Lumpur to Australia to Canada to the United States, there are many, many, many institutions. There are many as well. This is the wisdom that these communities in the West have used. There are online BA programs, MA programs, PhD programs, online courses to learn about Islam. There are web portals telling people about Islam, non-Muslims, Muslims. So there are many, many, many things. We just haven't got time to list them. But they are absolutely fantastic. And if I can dare to say it, the attitude in many of these is highly professional. People are on time. They respect people's time and they respect people's personality and so on. And that teaches us, in majority of Muslim countries, many things too. So whilst we look with great respect to what we might call the old Muslim world, the new Muslim world has a lot to teach as well. And fantastic things are being done because these people have grown up in a new world. And they're happy with that new world. They don't find it a threat. They don't find science a threat. It's not a threat. They don't find the role of women holding high positions a threat. You see, so there are many, many places, and they're doing fantastic work. In the United Kingdom, where I'm from, there are I think of the Islamic Foundation in Leicester, for example. I think of the Maktoum Institute in Dundee. Excellent, finest in the world. Excellent teaching. From Damascus, we used to send our students from Mahad al-Fath al-Islami to Leicester to finish their MA programs.
MashaAllah. Well, we're up against the break right now, so we'll come back and we'll have a very special guest in our studio with us, and we'll have a nice chat with him. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Assalamu alaikum.
The true life of the Muslim starts at death. If you wish to enhance your knowledge of the Islamic perspective on the hereafter, this life doesn't go on forever, but we do so little to prepare for it because most of us don't know what happens after this life ends. If you want to be amongst those who know, then join us every Saturday at 1930 GMT for the inevitable journey.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to our show, Let's Talk. Today we're discussing the issue of learning about Islam. And I have with me, as always, Brother Idris Tawfiq. Brother Idris, would you like to introduce our guest?
I'd be delighted to. We have with us today Brother Ahmed Ragab, who is a teacher of Islamic studies at Janadan International School in Cairo. He teaches from grade 1 to grade 9?
Grade 9, yes.
Okay. So we'll learn a little bit about that in a moment. But I want to ask you, brother, first. You know, this is maybe a philosophical question. In Muslim countries, or let's call them Muslim majority countries, youngsters go to school and they learn Islam in school.
Mm-hmm.
They live in Muslim families, learning about Islam. They go to the mosque every Friday and they listen to khutbahs every Friday of their lives. What's going wrong? Because we see the behavior of many Muslims is not the way Muslims should behave. So where are we failing?
This is a very important question, actually, and it's a very smart question. From what you mentioned, the mosque, the masjids, the school, and the family or the house. But it seems like each one of them is working separately, isolated from the other, like an isolated islands. And there is no integration, and there is no bridges between the school and the family, or the school and the mosque. And they are not like completing each other's. And this is the beauty of to work in a school like Janadan International, because they put their hands on the problem. The problem is any school anywhere in the world, they focus either on education, feeding education, like memorizing Quran. If we are talking about Muslim school, Islamic school, memorizing Quran, hadith, giving information about how to be a good person. But they don't make an effort to integrate this with the family so they can work together. And they don't teach even parents how to apply what the schools is teaching. And this is the most important thing that, unfortunately, as I mentioned before, many times before, that sometimes we need to educate and raise our parents, the parents themselves. And there is a difference between education and raising a child. And this is the problem, that we focus on education, but we don't go to the raising children.
You see, I meet many young Muslims in their late teens, early 20s, all over the world. And many of them have stopped praying. And they say to me, Brother Idris, you know, when we were 7, our fathers taught us to pray. Copy me, that this is what we do, and we learned how to pray. And we got to 20 and we asked ourselves, why are we doing this? What was it all about? Because no one told us what we were doing or why we were doing it. So how can we change this mindset?
I'll give you one example. For the first time in my life, to see a school that teach intention to grade 1, someone who is in age 6 years old. And this is something amazing to see a 6 years old. He's focusing in all his actions in intention, about his intention. So it will become a nature. For example, let me show you one of these examples. This is a sample of the department of the character building department in Janadan International. They designed this.
Character building department.
They have a character building department.
Allah.
Yes. This is, and there are teachers, character building teachers from grade 1 till grade 9 in each class. This character building teacher, he stays in the class even though there is another teacher, science teacher, math teacher, English teacher, but that character building teacher, he's staying in the class to raise and correct on the spot the attitude and the behavior of the student according to the Islamic teachings. So, for example, my daughter, she is in grade 1. They send with her this, and they told us...
That means she's 6 years old, grade 1.
She's 6 years old. And they told us that this is the Jannah, or this is the castle in the Jannah, and this is the road to the Jannah, and there is another road to the hellfire. If she did any actions that it's righteous actions, but she had the right intention, then we had to add a heart in the road of Jannah, like this. So of course the child, she would focus on every action she does to make sure that she has the right intention, because she wants to go to the Jannah at the end. Okay? And if she did something wrong, we put a dot here, like a clay, to the hellfire. Once she made something right, but without the right intention, like she didn't have any intention, for example, she ate, but she didn't eat with the intention that she has to eat well, so she become healthy, so she worship Allah correctly, then we put something, a clay, a yellow clay, on the question mark here. If she does da'wah, like advising someone to do something right, we will add a part of the castle for her here. At the end of the month, you will see a child totally changed and focusing 100% on every action she does about in her intention. She will focus that everything is according to her intention. So you will see a big difference. This is why our schools around the world, they have to have a character building department. Those who are specialized in this. And this is why actually I enrolled my daughter in that school, Jannah Dance International School.
So you trust their methods then?
Yes,
You see that it's effective.
Before you carry on, let me ask a question, okay?
Go ahead.
Because you're giving fantastic examples for a 6-year-old, for a 10-year-old maybe, for a 14-year-old. But when you get to 15, the problems start. You know? When you get to 18, when you get to 22, you've got problems that a 6-year-old doesn't have. How do we keep the momentum going? Please tell us more, but how do we keep this within the Muslim nation, that it isn't just something, you know, I taught a long time, and I always found that, you know, kids growing up, they wear short trousers, this is in London, short trousers, and hold their dad's hand and believe in Father Christmas, and then they grow up and they stop wearing short trousers and they pray. They grow up, they stop wearing short trousers, they stop holding their dad's hand, they stop believing in Father Christmas, and they stop praying. Because it's a childish thing. And often, you know, it's my experience that schools don't change the level of teaching and understanding of the pupils. So many adults have an understanding of their faith that's a 7-year-old understanding.
Well, we have to understand something. When, for example, in our school, you see the students who started with the school when they were in KG1 until grade 3 or 4, because the school is considered to be a new school, 4 years old school. You see the differences between those who came 4 years ago, but they are in grade 9, and those who came and they spent some like a year or two in the school. There are differences between those who were in the other school, but they didn't learn from the beginning this way of teaching, and the others who are being there for longer time. Their attitude is different. So when we talk about 15 years old, we should always focus that they had to start from the beginning. It's like a green plant.
Yes.
If you start this way, when she is or he is 6 years old, and carry on till become 15, you will see that there is no, you will see positive changes. You will not see that problem that you see in other schools.
So the Jesuit order always used to say, give me a child before he's 5,
yes,
and I will give you the man.
Exactly.
That's what you're telling us.
This is exactly what I'm saying. The other thing, one of the things that's important, this method, it's not only in school. We have, after we finish this, we have to return it back to the school. And the school will help the student to make another effort, like a next level. And one of the things that really I liked very much, this is something that she received it yesterday.
It's your daughter?
Yes. Here are some pictures. And they said, on these pictures, there are actions that the girl has to do every day. twice a day. One with me, one with her mother. So one of them, for example, kissing your mother's hand.
Allah.
Okay?
Allah.
Once she does this, and then she kissed my hand, we cut this picture and we paste it on this card here, on one of the flowers. Okay? At the end of the day, she has to do 5 actions, righteous actions, with her parents, like cleaning the house or helping, for example, smiling to us, sitting properly in front of us, obeying her parents. And she has to do this twice a day, okay? Once with me and the other one with her mother. Once she finished this, there is a picture here, a happy father and a happy mother. We add them at the back of the card.
So this gets the entire family involved in...
Exactly. Exactly. And it's impossible to put one happy face, a mother happy face, and a sad father happy face. Both of them has to be happy. Okay? So, and in the note from the school to the parents, don't reward the child with materialistic rewards like money or candies. Make sure that the ultimate reward is your happy faces on this card. This is the satisfaction. And after this, after the next day, we take off this, and there are other actions that she has to put. And this we have to carry on till it becomes a habit. She has to kiss her father's hand, her mother's hand. She has to obey them. She has to smile every time she talks to them. And she has to knock on the door before she enters the room. All these actions, it will become a habit. Plus the intention, correcting the intention with the other method that we mentioned before. So here, after this, we return the card to the school. And the school will evaluate. And if the student got like the total happy faces 5 from 2 or 5 from 10, then there's a problem. The psychologist and the character building teacher will sit with the daughter, make another thing for the girl.
Okay, I've got a question. I've got a question. They're all Muslim children in the school, yes?
Yes.
They pay to go to the school?
Definitely, yeah.
So what about the kids who don't pay to go to the school? What about all the Muslims? What do we do with them?
This is a very good question.
That's what I'm asking you.
This is a very good question. This is something that the parents needs to learn these methods and apply it at home. This is not something that it's difficult to apply, but basically every parent needs to learn this and focus on raising children.
So how practically can we do that? You know, in the Muslim world, we've more money. We've mountains of gold. We build towers of steel in the desert. We build islands in the sea. We don't know what to do with the money. Towers that are bigger than the Tower of Babel. You know, we build with so much money. But there are people who neither read nor write, our brothers and sisters. They can neither read or write, let alone know how to treat their parents well. Well, what do we do?
I think we have to make programs for the parents in general to teach them, and the character building method or the character building department, it's a brilliant idea in the Janadan school that they applied. And I think they have to take Janadan as a role model, all schools. They have to take it as a role model that they have to follow. If they can do this, I can see there is hope, a big hope. I'll tell you something, brother. In our school, at grade 3, we're talking about age 8 and 7, we reached the point that our students, a boy or a girl, can teach a foreigner who doesn't speak Arabic how to pray in English, even though that the student doesn't speak English, is not a native English speaking. And they talk about intention as any adult. This is something didn't come from nothing. It's a lot of hard work. I spoke with the head department of Janadan character building, and she mentioned to me today that it took them 2 years to come up with this idea. 2 years to design this. Because can you imagine each student take home this, multiply this by like 200, 300 students. So it's a lot of work. Raising children is not an easy task. It's a lot of efforts, and they have to work hard and to focus on this.
There's an idea I can share. You know, this idea on the little thing of the pictures of kissing the father's hand or the mother's hand. In Damascus again, you know, I was in Damascus airport one day when the pilgrims were coming back from Hajj. And little children in Damascus, it's still a very common thing to see children kissing their parents' hand. It's very common. And I watched the Hajj pilgrims coming through, dressed in white, and I saw one man, a very old man, and he came through the gate, and his son was in his 30s, and the son went down on his knees, and he clasped his father's legs and kissed him, begging forgiveness for all the hurt he'd caused his father during his life. And I cried and cried and cried when I saw it, because I thought it was so beautiful. And this is exactly what you're talking about.
Exactly. How to make this, what they learned as education, as information, and how to apply it, and to live it, and become part of their personality. This is what is character building is all about. To build a Muslim character. And the beauty of that school, that they give the two things, life and afterlife. It's an American school, Islamic American school. They teach the American program, so they have the strength of the math and science, so they can go on their life to be a very good doctors and engineers.
This is an important point as well, you see, because we mustn't neglect that the school is teaching them, it's teaching them science and maths and geography and history in a professional academic way, and these things are not to be just pushed under the door because we want to teach them the Quran and how to respect their parent. The two must go together.
Exactly, and not only this, there is another thing that they add, which is sports. We have sports, we have swimming, basketball, and they play under very professional trainers, which to have everything with them. They have the education, they have the religion, they have sports to build their bodies. So you have an integrated, honest, well-built Muslim character who can lead, inshallah, who can lead the community and lead the nations.
I would like to comment on something that you asked him. You said, is it a paid school, and what about the ones that can't pay? I think that, if I'm not mistaken, it's an aspect of this school that one of the things you tell the students that their purpose is for da'wah. And this would include to Muslims as well. So these students that can afford to go, I think, will have a big impact. When you think 300 students and however many Muslims that in their life that maybe couldn't afford this, that they will come in contact with, I think it's significant. I mean,
yes, and one of the things that they do, the character building department, which they teach their students, these students, to go out and help others who are not fortunate like them. Help others doesn't mean necessarily by money, but with advices, with to share with them informations and to share with them the ethics that they have learned in the school. And this is one of the things that I like very much about the attitude of the students. We saw many times in many schools the attitude and the behaviors and the manners of the students, and that Janadan students are really very different.
MashaAllah.
Very different.
Let me stop you right there because we're up against a very hard break. We'll be right back in just a minute. We'll let our audience ask you some questions. So we ask our viewers at home, don't go anywhere. It's a very short break, and we'll be right back.
So this is an open invitation for everybody to recognize God and enjoy His blessings in this life and His mercy in this life and in the hereafter as well. Allah, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. Each name has a meaning. Each name signifies a nature of Allah the Almighty which no one shares or is compared to Allah in it.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to our final segment of today's episode of Let's Talk. I'm here with Brother Idris Tawfiq. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
And with our special guest, Brother Ahmed Ragab. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
And we're discussing today Muslim education and this sort of thing, learning about Islam and so on. It's been a very interesting show. I hope you've been able to stay with us. Right now I want to go to our audience and ask if any of our audience has questions for Brother Ahmed. We'll go with you first in the middle.
Okay. Mr. Ahmed, one of the most important problems we have in today's world is getting the correct message into the media. Many people have a lot of misconceptions about Islam. This is often because they haven't the correct image. What can schools do to narrow this gap?
Very good question. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Number one, we have to educate our students how to respond to this misconceptions. And unfortunately, we see in our nowadays, again, the feeding the information is not the solution. Feeding information, feeding knowledge is not the solution, but how to apply this and live it. So number one, when you have new Muslims who act as Muslim, real Muslims, so their attitude and behavior and actions will correct this misconceptions by itself, because there will not be any problems to correct it if their actions fit what the teaching of Islam is. Number two, to educate our students to how to express and explain Islam in English. Often I say that we start to talk to ourselves. Muslims, they speak to themselves. We never can find someone who can speak up to the media, I'm talking about the Western media, in their language. So we have first to teach them how to speak correctly. The language that the others will understand, in a method that will not raise other questions more than answering it. So they have to understand the others to be able to correct their misconceptions, and to educate them and to do not be afraid to answer these misconceptions in our schools.
MashaAllah. Do we have another question? Go ahead, brother.
MashaAllah, you have lots of experience in teaching and education here in Egypt and also abroad in other countries. So how can you picture the gap of Islamic education here and there?
Well, from my experience in America, for example, we were feeding education, feeding it. We couldn't, I didn't have the experience at that time that I've learned at Jenadan, that how we can make this link between the school and the house. Because this link is everything. To have this connection, to have these bridges between the parents and the teacher. Because everywhere in the world, including in Egypt, schools work in a side and parents are on the other side. And there is no link. But at Jenadan, I've learned that it's very critical. And it's the only way to correct and build a right character Muslim person is to have this link, to work together, the family and the school at the same time. Make parents work with the school at home to correct the student and the child behavior on the spot, and to always give us the feedback to the school, and the school give the feedback to the parents and work together. This working together, this team working, that's what I found here at Jenadan. I didn't find it in America, not because they are bad, but because it was lack of information that I had at that time.
Now, this leads me to a question. This sort of involvement with the parents, does that, I mean, you can speak from your own personal experience if you want, does that make you a better parent? Does that make you think about things that maybe you didn't think about before?
Absolutely yes, because it corrects me as well. When I see, for example, that I have to teach my daughter that she has to kiss my hand and her mother's hand, she has to see me kissing my mother's hand.
Right. So
right?
you have to.
So I have to be the role model.
MashaAllah.
I have to, if I teach her how to be cheerful with her mother and with me, I have to be cheerful with my mother as well, with my parents. So really, yes, this is why we said before, when we were in America, sometimes we have to raise the parents first to be able to raise children. And the same thing, we can say it everywhere in the world, including in Egypt.
Another thing, though, I very strongly believe that the school must be a comfortable place for the parents. You're an educated man, but not all parents are. You know, and some parents, their education is less than their child's education. And this is in many countries in Europe, for example. The kids are better educated than the parents were, especially if they come from another country. And so many parents, they're afraid to go into the school because they have bad images of what school was like, and they remembered that they weren't very clever in school. So we must, if we're going to foster this link between school and home, between teachers and parents, we have to make the school comfortable enough place for them not to feel inadequate. And
this ice wall, at Janadan, they break it in the first parent meeting when the parents wants to see and learn more about the school. They make a meeting with all the parents, and the character building head department speak about the importance of the character building and the importance of working together with the parents, which makes really encourage the parents to work with the school. Even those who are less educated, they are encouraged to speak with the school and to be involved in our activities as well.
Inshallah. Well, we have just a minute left, so I'd like to go to our emails. And by the way, I think we should mention, in case we forget, that the viewers can email us. What's the email address?
talk@huda.tv.
So if you want, you can email us at talk@huda.tv, and we'll get back to you and mention your email on the show if you're one of the lucky ones, inshallah. This message is actually from Omar in London. And I want to make 2 more points about that. First, the name is very beautiful. I love it very much. Second of all,
London is nice too.
Exactly, that's the next point I was going to make. We now have viewers in all of Europe, so you're able to pick us up there, and we say salam alaikum to all of our viewers, and we see that they're actually watching us from this email. He says that he enjoys watching our show, Let's Talk, and he prays that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless our efforts and bring us new viewers, both Muslim and non-Muslim. But he asks, is there anything that he can do personally, on an individual scale, to promote the show? What can he do?
Bismillah, that's a very good question. He can tell his ordinary friends, you know. He can say, look, I watched a program last night. Oh, what was it? Was it, Neighbours, or was it Coronation Street? No, it was a program called Let's Talk. It was on an Islamic channel. Oh, I don't watch Islamic channels. No, what? Give it a try.
Yeah, it's a good one.
You can watch it on your computer, You don't need to watch it in front of your parents. Let them see you watching an Islamic channel. Watch it on your computer, live streaming. That's one thing. Tell your friends. You can use, we mentioned Facebook so many times on this show. You can tell people on Facebook, create an event. Come and join us on Wednesday.
Send out emails.
1800 GMT every week. Emails, messaging, text. That's one way you can help, brother. And also, a very important thing, just by sending that email, you're doing a great thing, because as Muslims, we don't support each other enough. And when I get emails from people saying, may Allah bless you for what you're doing, it really helps me.
MashaAllah.
So just a simple thing like sending an email, a text message, well done. If you have a criticism, we'd love to hear it too.
Yeah, maybe we can fix it.
But we can be gentle with our criticisms.
Yeah,
sometimes we're harsh, and criticisms can hurt. Criticisms are supposed to help. So please tell us, what we're doing wrong, but say it in a nice way.
Yeah, inshallah. And I remember that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that the man who doesn't thank people doesn't thank Allah. So we encourage your support if we're doing something right. And again, as he said, if we're doing something wrong, find a nice way, but tell us about it, inshallah. And if it's something that we can work on, we'll do our best to do that, inshallah. You can also tell everyone that the The two hosts of the show are extremely handsome and very knowledgeable, and you'll get plenty of people to watch it, inshallah. That's all the time we have for today, unfortunately, but we'll see you next time, inshallah ta'ala. We hope to see you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
When things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when the funds are low and the debts are high, and you want to smile but you have to sigh, when care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, but do not ever quit. Success is a failure turned inside out. Let's talk and clear the clouds of doubt. Success is a failure turned inside out. Let's talk and clear the